Families. They bring out the best in us, they bring out the worst in us. I'm Kate, I'm a therapist, and today we're going to be talking about setting boundaries, enforcing boundaries, and living a guilt-free life. Because don't we all deserve to feel safe and secure around our families?
What even is a toxic family? Well, toxicity is simply dysfunction. And we all have dysfunction. We all have our bad days and we function well on some days, but toxicity is chronic dysfunction. How do we measure that? Cohesion, expressiveness, and conflict. Cohesion. How well does your family get along? Do you all spend time together or are you in separate rooms? Expressiveness. How easily can you express yourself with your family? If you have a bad day, does it suddenly mean the end of the world for your mother, or is it okay? And 3, conflict. Do you guys get in arguments? Do you guys get in fights? Do you have beef with each other? These are all things that you should take into consideration when deciding the function of your family. Now, if you have high conflict, not very cohesive, and you don't have the ability to express yourself, then you have a very low functioning family. I would call that dysfunctional. And if this was a long time that it's been dysfunctional, maybe your family is toxic.
So your family is toxic. What do you do?
I have the answer for you. The AAA Toxic Family Framework. And the AAA stands for Awareness, Action, Adaptation. So this first part of the AAA framework is awareness. And what are we aware of? That the family has an ecosystem. Yes, in a way we are talking about nature. We're talking about cycles and properties and rules and unspoken rules. So just like the sun rises and will set, and it will do this over and over again, we know what to expect from it. It's gonna do the same behaviors over and over again. If it didn't, well, that would be catastrophic for us. Same thing with your family. In healthy families, this means that the family functions cohesively. They are adaptable to change. They are kind and flexible and beautiful. It's just a comfortable place to be in. Unhealthy families are not like that. Unhealthy families, you can kind of picture the upside down here. It's not a fun place to be. It's really confusing. We don't understand the rules here. Maybe the rules change frequently. That could be a sign of toxicity. But they're tense, they're scary, and they're really rigid. And if you try and change this ecosystem, well, it's probably gonna spit you out. Why is understanding what an ecosystem so important? Why is that so important? Well, with understanding comes empowerment. If you want to make lasting change, or even make change for just yourself for a little while, temporary change, you gotta understand what you're changing. You're changing the rules in which you behave, and that's ultimately going to affect that ecosystem that we just talked about. Now that we understand the family ecosystem, how do we change that? Well, this is where the second A comes in, taking action. We have to set boundaries. Now, to set boundaries, we really have to start by stating them clearly. You have to verbally set your boundaries, okay? And there's a few rules here. First, you don't have to be mean. All you have to be is clear and direct. I don't like talking about work. It makes me very stressed out. Try and keep these in I statements, because when you say something like, you stress me out with this work talk, I don't really know what to do with that. And it puts people on edge. So when you set things with I language, with first person language, it's gonna be better to hear. When you keep these boundaries in first person language, they're gonna be easier to receive from your family members, and also they're gonna be more specific to you. Now that you verbally set your boundaries, we have to enforce them. And this is a little tricky because it is very natural to test boundaries, okay? Don't get mad when people try and push these boundaries. Family members, friends, whomever they are, just ask a 2-year-old. We like to test boundaries. But imagine you walking out onto a glass floor. Are you going to just take your first step and directly plummet to your death? No, you're gonna do what I call the tippy tap. You're gonna take a toe, you're gonna put it out there, and you're gonna kind of test the waters here. You're gonna test whether that glass is sound enough to hold you. That's a natural reaction to have, and so is testing boundaries. But I don't want you to think that people can just test your boundaries all the time. So I like to give the 3-strike rule. First strike is when you set the boundary. They're going to maybe ask questions, that's fine. Second strike is when they naturally test it, also fine. But we're reinforcing this is a boundary. Third strike, well, now we can be mad. Which leads us to our next point of living guilt-free with boundaries is there's gonna be natural consequences if they're crossed. It's very important for you to make the distinction that a natural consequence is very different than a punishment, okay? We're not punishing people by having boundaries, but people will experience natural consequences. If I touch a hot stove, my finger is gonna get burned. That is a natural consequence, okay? The stove did not get mad at me and decide to take it out on me. That's not what happened. The stove did not punish me. That did not happen. Did I experience a natural consequence of heat? Yes, I did. Also, with these natural consequences, you're worthy of having them, okay? This isn't a thing of like, oh, well, I don't want to hurt people, so like, I just won't enforce these boundaries. No, because if you don't have any consequences for people crossing your boundaries, people are gonna walk all over you. You're gonna become a doormat. That's not nice. That's not fun. And that's not what you deserve. So if your boundaries keep getting crossed, just remember, if you're doing everything right, it's not you, it's them. You've done everything. You've been aware, you've taken action, and now we're at the third part. We're at adaptation. And one direction for you to go is adaptation in the direction of change, which is great for you, and I'm happy for you. I hope that things worked out. But if things didn't go your way, then we tend to get two emotions that aren't very fun to talk about. And that leads us to grief and shame. You're gonna grieve the loss of this expectation that your family was gonna change for you. They were going to change with you. And that's not a fun thing to feel. This disappointment of people not agreeing with you and choosing something else over you. So you're gonna have to grieve the loss of that idea, that perfect family that you had in your mind. You're gonna have to relearn relationships. So if you wanna stay in relationship with your family that's toxic, then you're gonna have a different relationship with those family members. They're not going to be the same as they were before, which leads us to a lot of shame. We're going to have shame about not being perfect, about not having this ideal family. Other people are going to accidentally put shame on you. They're going to say, well, why didn't you do this? Or why didn't you do that? Not knowing all the work that you did put in. But I'm here to tell you that it's not worth it. I'm here to tell you to not let other people bully you into changing how you feel. Your feelings are valid, you worked really hard, and you're allowed to have them, okay? That's not your fault. But I do have a lot of people say, okay, I did everything, I'm very disappointed, I'm dealing with all this grief. What was it worth, you know? Why did I do all that? And I typically ask them, well, can you imagine going back? And they usually tell me no. And so I tell them the pain you went through is like the effect of a ripple. It's going to feel very small right now, but it's going to have lasting change over the course of your life. For example, because you went through this, you're no longer going to accept anything less than what you deserve in a job, in a relationship, in a friendship, wherever it is, because you already did that hard work and you're not going to let that happen again. Yes, it does suck. All of it sucks. Toxic families suck. But in a way, it was inevitable, because if you ever wanted to grow or be a healthy human being, this needed to happen. And you going through all the pain and the trouble and the hard work and learning and development, well, it made you a better person. And let me ask you this, haven't you found a better family? Haven't you found a better family through friends and through coworkers and other people? In a way, yes, we do lose one family, but oftentimes I find that humans will adapt and we'll find a new family. We'll find something beautiful for ourselves in a community for us to live free from pain, free from fatigue, free from pressure. And to me, that's worth it. The real question is freedom worth it for you? All right, guys, this one was a really heavy one. Take care of yourself, and I'm gonna catch you guys next week.